Welcome to this sacred time and place as we gather to celebrate the lives of two very special people, Louis Samuel Russell Jr. and Charlotte Bergman Russell, also known as Lou and Charlotte, or Grammy and Grampy. I am the Reverend Dr. Stephanie May, minister here at First Parish in Wayland, where Lou and Charlotte were members since 1961. When I arrived here 8 years ago, it did not take me long to learn who Lou and Charlotte were. Neither were shy and both were memorable. I think I had a copy of Russell's Through the Years within my hand within the first month. I'll let you guess who gave it to me. Given the exuberant love Charlotte and Lou showed for this town, their friends, their employees, and most of all, their family, this service will undoubtedly be full of abundant joy. And yet, with these fond memories also comes the sadness and the grief for their absence among us. Yes, they both lived well and lived long. Still, there is sadness in their passing. In this time together, you will hear from family and friends, including some time later for you to share brief remarks. There is much to say about each of them. About Lou, who was born and lived here in Wayland upon the farm his grandfather began. Although he did manage to live for a time in Cambridge while at, what school did he attend? Harvard, right? Lou would also spend some time away while in military service during the Korean War. Still, Wayland was home, and it was to Wayland that Lou brought his bride, Charlotte. It was in Wayland where they raised their three daughters, Karen, Elizabeth, and Louisa. It is in Wayland where their ashes will rest and their legacy will remain. And though Lou may have been here first, I don't think anyone doubts that Charlotte also left her mark upon this place. This New Jersey native with her college degree arrived in Massachusetts ready to work hard and to make a life. When Lou and Charlotte joined forces in love and business, Wayland, Russell's Garden Center, First Parish, and well, just so many of us will never be quite the same from their lively and loving presence among us. So let this time together be a true celebration of two wonderful people. As we hear stories of their lives, may we honor the fullness of how they spent their time, of how Lou and Charlotte lived as individuals and together. Let us feel what we feel, allowing both the tears and the laughter to come as we listen and remember. It is time to tell these stories, to hear some music, and to simply rest here together in this sanctuary where their spirits are with us still. Let us begin. I now invite Genevieve, Carly, and Dan Skian, 3 of the mini grandkids, to come forward to light the chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism.
We light this chalice to remember the generations, fields that they sowed. We light for the laughter, cows, bears, and woes. We light for the memory of how she stood aglow on the finish line, how he helped hundreds find their life through the earth, good deeds, strong independence, and warmth. May their lights forever glow.
Please rise in body or in spirit to sing together our opening hymn, Morning Has Broken. The lyrics are in your order of service, or if you'd like to read music, it's number 38 in our hymnal. Please be seated.
She was a role model for younger women, and probably for her peers, too. Charlotte was wise and warm and fun. Back in her Campfire Girl leader days, those of us not in her group so wanted to be. What an amazing life and loving family she had. She was a breath of fresh air, a true personality. These are just a few quotes from the thoughtful cards that we received when Mom passed away. The outpouring of love was immense and plentiful. Another quote from an employee read, "Both your mother and father were hard workers, but they also knew how to vacation, encouraged all of us to take time to recharge." My mom was my best friend. She was right next door to me and ready to listen to my challenges and happy moments. She was a great listener who took the time to hear the whole story before interjecting. For challenges, her advice was often simple, like, "It's okay, things will get better. Some people are just like that." "You can do this." "I agree." Or when I felt overwhelmed, "Can I help you?" One of her favorite quotes was, "If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all." Some described my mom as quiet, shy, and tolerant of opposing views. Many days we would sit by her window doing a puzzle while we talked. She was quick to celebrate, acknowledge, and compliment myself and others. And her positive spirit and her warm smile were inspirational. Mom was a doer. Very quietly, she took on big challenges and made things happen. In the late 60s, Mom took our large Dodge van and built beds, cupboards, and sewed curtains and made custom window screens so that our family of 5 could sleep in it. We enjoyed many cross-country and local camping trips. When we wanted horses growing up, she suggested goats instead. And she herself built us a goat pen. A year later, she gave in to horses, and she built us a horse barn. Growing up near the Jersey Shore, Mom developed a love for water sports. She was a competitive water skier in high school, doing shows and even going over jumps and skiing with a rope around her neck and her foot. Not allowed now. She loved kayaking, relaxing on our pontoon boat, swimming, water exercising, and canoeing. Swimming in the ocean was Mom's specialty. She taught her children and grandchildren how to time and predict each approaching wave, so we'd know whether to jump, dunk, or body surf it. Most of Mom's friends would describe her as competitive, in an impressive way that leads others to follow. She played field hockey throughout high school and college, then turned her aspirations to tennis, skiing, and biking. And can I just brag for a moment? My mom finished a triathlon at the age of 80. She was the oldest competitor. She attended many dance recitals, musical shows, and rowing races. And she wasn't just watching her grandchildren. She was rooting for their friends and the whole team. She carpooled the rowers from practice because she loved hearing about all the happenings on the water and in their lives. Wearing team clothing, she attended the Head of the Charles and the U.S. Rowing State Championships for many, many years until she could barely walk. Being surrounded by young, vibrant people made Mom happy. She loved her husband, children, and grandchildren. In her later years, as dementia set in, she developed an even greater sense of humor. And yeah, we all know about this. And we will tell more stories afterwards at the reception. She'd start stories that didn't make any sense at all, and we would just add on to them, embellish them, and we'd all laugh. She loved to laugh. She enjoyed having Allie, Sam, and Jay live with her and help care for her. They added lots of singing, friends, and family dinners, as well as loving care in her later years. Mom called her caregiver, Carlos, her angel, and we are so thankful for his care and friendship for the last 8 years. Mom's grandchildren all visited regularly, and she was passionately engaged when they talked about their lives. As one person wrote, "Your mother was a very strong, witty, and kind woman who will leave a big hole in a lot of people's lives." Another read, "She was the First Lady of Wayland." She was a true Unitarian Universalist who loved this church, the congregation, the music, and definitely the coffee hours too. I wish she was here now, but I feel her strength within me. As a hardworking lover of family, nature, athletics, and people, my mom inspired many people's lives. May her competitive, loving spirit live on in our memories forever.
Good afternoon. I am touched and honored to be asked to speak about Lou Russell. My name is Laura Carlo, and I am not a member of the Russells' biological family. Although for over 35 years, starting when I was 3, I have been a proud member of Russell's Garden Center family. I'm only sorry for the reason that we're gathered here today. I would have much preferred us meeting, say, in a few years for a happier occasion, like Lou's 100th birthday. I'd like to imagine that the party would have been held in the garden center yard, big long tables with all his dear friends and family, maybe piled high with donuts, surrounded by the trees and the plants that he loved. Lou Russell was the first member of the Russell family that I met. I began working at WCRB Radio in the month of April, and as you know, that's the big launch month for gardens around here. Lou came into the station to record his own commercials, and I was introduced to this man only as, he's a longtime advertiser and a great friend to the station. He was tall and soft-spoken and kindly. When I, a Boston native who was back living there, promised him I'd make the trek out to this magical land called Wayland, where I had never been to that point, he said, "Ask for me and I'll show you around." What owner of a big company does that? And for that reason alone, I promised myself I would do that as soon as I could, and I did. I asked for Lou as soon as I got there, and sure enough, he made his way to the front cash register to find me, and he gave me a tour of the place. He was very proud to show me Daniel's Den, which was a little toy shop managed by his daughter Elizabeth, named for her son, his grandson. He told me that Elizabeth had proposed the idea of a little gift shop within the garden center. And while I figured out quickly that he wasn't the type to wax poetic, in fact, I don't think I have ever met a more understated man, he volunteered that he was, this is a quote, very proud of her endeavor. And he added, "Yeah, I think this is gonna work out." He asked me how much gardening I did. I had been gardening since I was a toddler. It was a beloved hobby of both my father, who became an award-winning master rosarian, and of my grandparents, who always had a vegetable garden. Problem was, when I moved back to Boston after broadcasting jobs in southeastern Mass and Providence, I moved into a Boston apartment. The best I could do were a few houseplants in my sunniest window. And I never forgot what Lou said to me that day on our tour. "You need to ask your parents for a corner of their garden. You need to get back out there, it's important." And I said, "Well, that's a good idea. There's nothing like homegrown food." And he said, "It's not about the harvest. It's about the work." And so I did. Thankfully, when my work days were too long and too tiring to tend to my little handkerchief-sized garden in my parents' backyard, my dad was willing to step up and water my peppers and tomatoes and various herbs. And a few years later, when my new husband and I bought our first house, it had a little yard for my very own garden, which was populated by Russell's products. And 9 years ago, when we moved to an even bigger house with an even bigger yard, I wasn't the type to envision a swimming pool and a gazebo, but rather a rose garden in honor of my dad, a rhododendron extravaganza, apple trees and blackberries and irises and rose of Sharon, foxgloves and asters and alliums and tulips and Gabbera daisies and pansies and petunias and sweet potato vines. That all came from Russell's. And just between us, my husband calls my backyard Russell's West. I never visited Russell's without hunting down Lou, poor man. I'd bombard him with questions, and he always had the right answer or suggestions off the top of his head, never needed to check into a book or a website. And 2 of the trees in my life are because of Lou Russell. Remember, I lived in a Boston apartment for a number of years, but it was important for me to have a real Christmas tree. I wanted one that smelled like pine. Lou Russell said, "You want a Fraser." But no buts. But no buts. I have had a Russell's Fraser every year since, 35 years worth. Tree number 2. Shortly after moving in, I wanted a pink dogwood tree for my current house. It had a beautiful pink flowering dogwood already, but there was an empty space on the front lawn just begging for another dogwood to balance things out. So I showed Lou a photo of the existing pink dogwood so that we could match it exactly. No comment from him except, "What you want is a kusa." A what? I never heard that word. Guess what's in the middle of my front yard? A white flowering kusa dogwood. One more memory. For about 20 years, I joined members of Russell's staff every fall for a WCRB listener event. I just emceed as the great staffers showed the audience how to make wreaths and table decorations and more that would last from Thanksgiving right through New Year's with just a switch out of a few ribbons and flower picks. We'd have musical entertainment and food and beverage vendors doing sampling throughout the store, and it was always well attended. I never considered the event a success, however, until I spotted Lou and Charlotte, who would always show up together and stand in the back of the audience area, smiling their approval. One year they came late and they apologized and explained they had just come back from some vacation, but they didn't want to miss the event. Understand that they didn't come to see another wreath being decorated. They came out of mutual respect. In all the decades I knew Lou, I learned how proud he was of his daughter Elizabeth, his son-in-law Tim, his nephew Jack, all of whom helped him run the garden center. At the center's 125th anniversary, he and Charlotte beamed with pride, introducing me to their other daughters, Louisa and Karen, and pointing out every grandchild. Lou was also so proud of his staff. "We've got such good people here," he said. What I never knew was that he had gone to Harvard. I never knew his personal accomplishments, his community service, because those were things about which he did not boast. I read about those things in the book he wrote, Russell's Through the Years. I was honored, by the way, to write the foreword to the book. And I'd like to end today with my final paragraph from the foreword. In Genesis, God puts Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Perhaps we can assume that since they are being created in his own image, he placed them in the place he loved the best, a garden. To me, then, gardeners are more than mere laborers who toil in the sun. They are the true ministers, tending and nurturing that which God himself favors. By being a decent family man, by providing a great place for so many to work, by contributing in countless ways to the local community and to the larger world community, Lou Russell is really worth getting to know if you don't know him already, and still worth getting to know better if you do. And that's how I ended it. Lou has passed and will always be missed. Those of us who got to know him in whatever capacity we did are the luckier for it. If you didn't know Lou and Charlotte, ask anybody about them. They are still worth getting to know.
Mom and Dad met on the tennis courts in Weston, Massachusetts. Mom, a teacher, Dad, a self-professed sheltered farm boy. They married and honeymooned in Intercourse, Pennsylvania. When Dad got there, he bought lots of postcards, the scenic cards with Intercourse written across the top, and wrote 2 words on the back side, "Is great." Shortly thereafter, I was born, followed by Elizabeth, and then Louisa. Mom may have given up the formal classroom teaching, but she never gave up teaching. Dad had a lot to learn, and so did we. She taught Dad how to swim, ski, and got him biking and camping, and she failed miserably when it came to mastering hand tools. In our younger years, we took camping trips, all of us, plus our dog Dinah, piled in a van that Mom, mostly Mom, and Dad built as a camper. One of our favorite destinations was Piseco, New York, and among extended family and friends, Piseco had a tennis court where lively matches took place. Mom was very, very competitive and on a mission always to beat Dad. And Dad was a switch hitter, no backhand for him, which meant with his outstretched arms, he could cover a lot of the tennis court. Dad's outstretched arms extended other places too. Some people take in stray cats and dogs. Mom and Dad took in stray people. Friends and family from far and wide. People came to live with them, not for luxurious accommodations, and Lord knows not for great cooking, except for one exception, Dad's pancakes. They offered abundant love and generosity. Neighbors, friends, and employees were all considered family to them. Together they built a garden center. Mom worked in the office and Dad had his hands in the dirt. Each spring he would hire high school students to plant the seedlings. And I remember a humming Dad coming into the greenhouses among all my planting buddies and do a random Lou Russell series of claps, followed by a couple of hoots. He was happy, and I was embarrassed. Many years later, Dad's thoughts in songs and rhymes became legendary. With weddings paid off and grandkids arriving, Mom and Dad surprised us when they bought a timeshare in the Bahamas. For many years, our entire family celebrated Thanksgiving in the Bahamas. We cherish those memories. Mom and Dad so loved their 8 grandkids. In fact, they had a sign in their house that said, "If I knew how fun my grandkids would be, I would have had them first." Ouch. 2014 was Mom and Dad's last trip to the Bahamas, and that was the year of transition. Dad was medically airlifted from Nassau to Boston, and then Carlos entered Mom and Dad's life and was a true blessing to both of them and all of us. Dad became so limited with his arthritic ankles and his rapidly declining hearing, he never complained. He went to work every day. There were Christmas trees to be priced, newspapers to be read, and donuts to be eaten in the break room. Travel was replaced with dining out. The more the merrier, and Dad insisted on picking up the tab. There was a reason that large Russell parties would get seated at the Villa and the Wayside Inn with short notice and maybe not even a reservation. Dad was a huge tipper, and I am sure that waitresses, after they cleaned that table, were doing a Lou Russell hoot in the kitchen. Mom developed dementia, and I never thought I would ever call Mom sweet. But in old age, she was. She never lost her sense of humor. She was funny. Mom found her happy place, and we just went there with her. After Dad passed away, Sam and Allie moved in. When I would visit, I'd hear Mom talking nonsense from her chair, and then a cute little grin from Allie. And Allie said, "Oh, she's playing tennis. She's keeping score." And another time, Sam looked at me and said, "Oh, she's teaching school." In Mom's world, Dad was alive, and just in his own world. Mom got skinny, and Carlos always had Mom well dressed. One day I walked in, I looked at her and I said, "Mom, you're looking hot." She looked at me and said, "Yeah, well, what good does it do? Your father's nowhere to be found." 2 nights before she died, we gathered bedside with her to watch King Richard, the story of tennis stars Venus and Serena Williams. And Carly was a great commentator. Mom was happy until her very, very last breath. And we all have you to thank for this. Mom received phone calls, letters, videos, and FaceTimes. She was tired and weak, but everyone, her hollowed face smiled and her lips folded with a puckered kiss. Mom never stopped teaching. She taught us how to handle aging and dementia, and she loved each and every one of you, and Dad did too. Thank you.
So Mom and Dad's distant travels did come to an abrupt end, but their adventures didn't end, and I frequently joined them. Long after they stopped driving and were needing daily help, we vacationed to the Cape and to my house in Maine. At my house, many of their days were spent just around home, Mom sitting on the porch and Dad slowly walking our quiet road, enjoying visiting with neighbors. But at least a few days, we would venture out to nearby places, the Maine Botanical Gardens and the Boothbay Railroad Museum, amongst others. When we went out adventuring, it was often just me, Mom and Dad, and 2 walkers and a wheelchair. So it was cumbersome, often a challenge to orchestrate, and very slow. We never saw a lot of the gardens or much of the historic buildings surrounding the train tracks, but wow, we had fun. These trips were constant reminders of joy, love, gratitude, and kindness. Even as Mom and Dad's world got smaller, they continued to find and share their appreciation for life. For Dad, that was a revelry in his surroundings, nature and its amazing beauty. Dad literally and figuratively stopped to smell the flowers a lot and exuberantly invited you to join in. Dad, not just looking at, but needing to get up close to touch and then hug the decorated 500-pound pumpkin on display. His loud excitement at discovering that, yes, truly, it was a real pumpkin was so infectious that a couple walking by stopped and joined him so that Dad's hug completely encircled the pumpkin. Later, Dad's walks got shorter, to the point that walking from his bedroom to the glass patio door became his daily celebration of nature, but he never stopped smelling the fresh air and singing nature's praises. Mom also found joy in her surroundings. One of her favorites was car rides. It always amazed me how much she noticed, as Mom had been complaining for years about how bad her vision was. But put her in a car on the back rural roads of Maine, and she could see a lot, and she loved it all. And even when Mom's world became just her bedroom, she was still seeing that beauty. Sometimes her mind took her back to Maine or the Bahamas or across the field to the greenhouses full of flowers, but more often that beauty came through the stories of your gardens or the hike you took. But for Mom, it really was hearing more about how friends and family were that mattered most. Mom's quiet, non-judgmental love for others never stopped. She loved all of you here and all of you who aren't here unconditionally. Trust me, even if you weren't able to visit her in her later years, or perhaps you did visit, but her mind was too muddled to realize your presence, it didn't matter. When her mind cleared and we spoke of your visit or phone call or shared cards or pictures, Mom was always happy. I'm so glad they are doing well. Give them a hug and kiss from me. Mom and Dad needed a lot of help for many years, and it was sometimes hard, overwhelming, and always very messy. Everyone in our family took on different roles and helped, but we never could have cared for them and shared in their happiness without the support from all of you. Whether it was here at church, in Wayland, in Maine, or beyond, your kind words, encouragement, laughter, many meals and treats, visits, and countless other chores you helped with meant so much to all of us. Heck, some of you even picked Mom and Dad up and managed to get them to church on time. Believe me, our family knows what an amazing feat that was. So thank you all. They taught us kindness and gratitude, and to me, their aging was a constant reminder of not how important that is, but also how much kindness there still is all around us. From friends, but from also strangers. When I spoke of going places with them, I really didn't manage it all alone. Countless people stopped and offered help and encouragement, whether it be standing with Dad while I got Mom settled in the car, or helping to load up a walker, or holding a door long after I'd said, "It's okay, I can get it, we move really slowly." Or those who just smiled and chatted with us rather than rushing by as we created a traffic jam on the sidewalk. It was really appreciated. Dad exuberantly saying, "Thank you, Minx. That was delicious," after every meal, no matter what it was. Mom, always thanking you when you cared for her, with a kiss and, "I'm sorry I'm such a burden." You weren't, Mom. You and Dad were a gift right until the end. So to Mom and Dad, thanks for so vividly sharing all your love, humor, joy, determination, and values. I don't think aging gracefully is the term that comes to mind, but your lives were beautiful and so inspiring, right to the end, and you've left us with so many good stories.
My name is Dan. I'm Lou and Char's oldest grandson. I've known Louis and Char my entire life. They weren't only my grandparents, they were my best friends. Lou was a great role model to me. He taught me the value of hard work, really hard work, and how to be strong-willed but kind. Charlotte was my second mother. And showed me the importance of being financially savvy in both business and life. And they're the reason I work at Russell's now as part of the 5th generation. I miss them both with all my heart, and I always will. But I know it's okay, because I see their spirit live on, and the communities that they took part in, and the places where they put all that hard work in, and also and all the people in which they shared their life with. They had a long and fulfilling life and left a positive impact on the people, places, and communities that they partook in. And you cannot hope for anything more in a lifetime.
take off the mask. Ho, ho, ho. Rock and roll. It's all right. This is sad, but it's a good time to reflect. My name is Bobby, or Robbie, or Robert, or Rob. Many names, one identity. I'm a grandson of Lou and Char, Grammy and Grampy as they were known to us. Just going to offer a brief commentary on each Grammy and Grampy, and then going to do a little jig to conclude, so that'll be fun. Grammy, my grandmother, she was like a second mother to me. When I was a child, I experienced a number of challenges, autism-related challenges, ranging from sensory processing difficulties to a general inability to forge social connection, with the exception of Grammy. She was my special person. She understood me on an intimate, personal level, like other people just did not. It was her lap that I refused to leave, her hands that I refused to unclench as a child. She was absolutely essential to my socialization. My grandfather, Grampy, he was known as a stubborn man. And that's a trait that I think has been passed on to many of his descendants, myself included, at times, at times. But he also always had an extraordinary capacity for independent and critical thinking. And it was a combination of those characteristics that always allowed him to maintain his principles, even in the face of overwhelming opposition. This dude was a loud and proud George McGovern voter in one of the most dramatic presidential election defeats in US history. He never wavered his opposition to Ronald Reagan, one of the most popular presidencies in US history. He was the first person I ever heard in my life issue a perspective on the Israel-Palestine conflict that humanized the plight of the Palestinians. And I say all of this, and that was a taboo position 15 years ago in this country. And I say all of this because I myself got involved in political advocacy when I was a high school student, and I have no one to thank more than Grampy for that. And so to that I say, Viva Grammy, Viva Grampy. And Sam, would you like to join me for this little tune? So, all right, putt-putt. Oh, and Blue, okay. It's a crew. So this was a hit single. I believe it topped the Billboard 200. And, all right, calm down.
Billboard 200.
Yeah. And it was written none other than by our grandfather. There's actually a cover song based on it that is, I can't remember what it's called, something about the New Orleans Saints. Anyway, I don't know. But the original is called When the Cows Come Marching In, all right? So everyone, we'll do two verses. The first, us three, well, you can all join in, of course, if you know the lyrics, but the second one, everyone's got to join in, all right? So, are we ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Oh, when the cows come marching in. No.
When the cow.
Oh, when the cows come marching in, and then oh, when the cow. Two, oh, when the cows come marching in, and then. All right, let's do it again. Sorry about that. 1, 2, 3. Oh, when the cows come marching in. Oh, when the cows come marching in. I wanna be in that shitty pasture. Oh, when the cows come marching in. That was my bad. Everyone. Oh, when the cows come marching in. Oh, when the cows come marching in. I wanna be in that shitty pasture. Oh, when the cows come marching in. All right. No. I think I botched it. My bad.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Jay. I'm Karen's child. You've heard about people that lived with Grammy and Grampy. I am one of them. I lived with Grammy and Grampy twice, first when I was 24, and then again 4 years later. Both times, I just kind of showed up in either material or spiritual disarray, running low on money or ideas on what to do with my life.
And when I worried how long I could reasonably stay with them, Grammy patted my hand at the kitchen table and told me I could stay as long as I wanted. They loved having me. It was that simple. She never once asked if I was applying for jobs or looking for an apartment, or what have you. But nevertheless, I felt like I owed it to her to give her some kind of progress updates. And whenever I did, she always said the same thing, which was, "Oh, how wonderful," like I told her the weather. What she and Grampy gave me was much more than just a place to stay, though, important as that was. The really important thing that they gave me was time. The time and love and support that I needed to prepare myself for whatever came next. And that kind of generosity, patience, and trust inspires and guides me in my relations today. Grammy was so generous with me that she even let me cook her pasta, which some of you may know she hated pasta. I've talked mostly about Grammy so far because Grampy was always a bit of a mystery to me. I'd observe him sitting silently in his chair, surrounded by sharp cheddar and Triscuit crumbs, and wondering what was going on inside that head of his. Fortunately, he did invite us in on 2 occasions. In 1998, he published Rustles Through the Years, A History of the Garden Center, and he followed that up in 2009 with Down to Earth with Common Sense, a collection of his thoughts on a wide range of subjects. I have read both these books in full. I can assure you his head was a very active place. Anti-imperialism, masturbation, the tax code, family history, it's all there. So I want to close out with Lewis Russell in his own words with a passage from Down to Earth with Common Sense. I've chosen this passage because, in my reading at least, it is drenched in metaphors, and I think it could help guide us as we make meaning of this day. It begins. We've been going to Nantucket since 1984 in early September. The ocean water temperature is still warm, and Northside beaches like Cliffside are usually calm except for a north wind. We avoid the surf beaches. Nice to look at, but too rough for us. However, last year, 2008, I made a mistake. I biked to Cliffside, and the wind was blowing out, so the waves weren't high. It looked innocent to me. The remnants of a hurricane had gone through the day before, but 100 miles to the west, somewhere in Connecticut. So in I went and did my 3 basic strokes: breast, on the back, and running. After about 25 minutes, I noticed some outward drift. So, okay, time to come back to shore. Except I couldn't. I had read what to do if this ever happens. Don't fight it. Ride with it. Save your energy, and eventually it will release. But I fought it anyway. There's a lodge and restaurant there which are usually not busy, but a young, strong employee saw me, came out with a surfboard, and rescued me. Never again will I swim alone, no matter how safe it seems. Next day, Charlotte and I biked to the same beach. Several others were there. I told them I was afraid and why. They said to me, "We understand your fear, but it's nice today. We'll all watch, and we encourage you to swim again." I did, and it was just about perfect. No trouble. That's what friends are for, and I'm deeply appreciative.
Hello, I'm Sam. I'm also one of the grandchildren and Karen's middle son. I just wanted to start by saying I am so glad that we are all here to get together to honor both my grandparents. And while this is a memorial service, more importantly, this is a celebration of life, and we should be telling light stories and having fun as well, because that's what Grammy and Grampy always taught us to do. So growing up, I was so fortunate to have a tight-knit family that included my aunts, uncles, cousins, and at the root of it all, 2 fantastic grandparents. Even though there were 3 nuclear families, When we were all together, we felt like one unit, the Russells. We all have Grammy and Grampy to thank for that. As grandchildren, many of the highlights of our childhood were punctuated by those precious memories of family vacations and parties that were so important to Grammy and Grampy. For me, some of my earliest memories were those trips to Cape Cod. We would walk from our campsite into the Mass Audubon with Grampy at night and listen to the bullfrogs and watch the stars. I don't remember exactly what we would talk about, but I remember the time we spent with Grampy was one of pure joy. Looking back at those memories now, I've come to appreciate how, despite having spent well over half a century on this earth before our time, Grampy still had or shared the same youthful enthusiasm for nature that his grandchildren had. Grampy was a very interesting and hilarious person, an outspoken enthusiast for all things natural. He is also famous in our family for making the absolute best pancakes. What might surprise you is the copious amounts of vegetable shortening that was mixed in with the Bisquick and whatever other highly processed food additives he wanted to throw in there. It didn't matter. The pancakes were divine and an exceptional feat for a man who could otherwise barely boil water. The dynamic at the house with Grammy and Grampy was fascinating and oftentimes remarkably entertaining. They were different in so many ways, but underneath those differences, behind the sometimes relentless bickering, was a rock-solid foundation built on love. In the summer of 2019, I remember Grammy and Grampy sitting in the living room. Grampy had gotten up to make a drink, and sitting contently, Grammy said, "Louis, kiss me." Not hearing her, Grampy continued walking by, so again, Grammy said, "Louis, kiss me." Again, he didn't hear her, so finally, Grammy just yelled, "Damn it, Louis, kiss me." If you knew Grampy at that age, you know that he still didn't hear her and continued to walk and make his drink. So, no doubt about it, they were both stubborn people. But in our family, there's no question that Grammy was the matriarch who tied everything together. As they got older, it was their strongest characteristics that really shined through. For Grampy, it was his youthful nature. For Grammy, it was her compassion. This being the case, it would be impossible not to attribute our family being brought together to her. Grammy had a remarkable ability to mend things, myself included. I know if Grammy were able to speak now, she would back me up on this. I was easily the most accident-prone child of all of her grandchildren. I have countless memories of Grammy busting out the first aid kit after falling off my bicycle or slipping on rocks. And I can still even hear her voice saying to me, "Sam, you really need to stop doing this so often." There were countless times when she managed to get me to laugh through the tears, and I owe part of my sarcastic sense of humor to her. Grammy was the embodiment of what I believe a grandmother is supposed to be, a second mother. She always welcomed us to stay with us, and when times were challenging for us, be it because of relationships ending or the need to figure out where to go after college, she opened the doors to her home without hesitation. It was that situation that brought me to Grammy's house at the end of 2019, a month after Grampy had died. The end of her life was a symbolic representation of our relationship. For the last couple of years, Grammy, Allie, and I had quite the dynamic at Pelham Island Road. We were always finding ways to get Grammy to laugh and her the same for us. We were so tight-knit that we even got matching leopard print pajamas for the Christmas card in 2020. We all cuddled in the same bed. It was very intimate. The sense of humor through the difficult times was something I learned from Grammy when she would fix me up. Toward the end of her life, when she needed more care, Grammy would apologize for needing help, and I would remind her of all the times that she had done the same for me. It goes beyond that. Over the years, so many people stepped up, all of whom were so touched by her. Carlos, her beloved caretaker, Tim and Elizabeth next door, Louisa and Karen, my mom, driving down from Maine countless times to see her, and all of her grandchildren and friends. Grammy's life is proof that what goes around comes around, and for her, that resulted in an outpouring of love. I'm so proud to be part of her life. She was one of my very best friends. But Grammy, sorry. It's gonna get lighter here in a second. Oh, jeez. All right. Both Grammy and Grampy will forever hold a special place in my heart. And I'm very proud that they are both parts of me, and I'm a proud Russell. There is so much to celebrate today, and the best way to do it is through a traditional Lewis Russell happy hour. Today, in their honor, please make his famous cocktail. Grab some single malt scotch and open up the fridge. Reach all the way in the back and find the oldest questionable bottle of juice you can find. Mix 5 parts scotch with 1 part expired juice. And offer the drink to every family member at least half a dozen times. We all know that's what's going on upstairs tonight, even in that single-story home, with Grammy and Grampy. We love you, crazy dogs. Bow wow to the cow.
Is your mask? Oh. Blue. Oh, no, he's here.
This room is just so full. I love it. Charlotte and Lou were big fans of The Sound of Music, which doesn't surprise me as the main themes include family and nature, freedom and joy. After the choir sings Edelweiss through once, please join in singing this beloved song. Please rise in body or in spirit. The choir will sing once and then we'll join in. Please be seated. If you know anything about Unitarian Universalism, you know that part of our service includes joys and sorrows, which is sort of a UU open mic. And Lou loved this moment. And I know this is going to be a longer service because it's for 2 people. And Charlotte's role in this was often sitting next to him, elbowing him, suggesting he had used enough time. So we're going to have a time for you to share a brief remark. We have about 7 to 10 minutes. And I get to play the role of Charlotte, okay? So if you wish to share a brief remark, please just line up over here by the windows. We are asking you to stay masked. The folks you've seen unmasked were tested negative for COVID this morning. So for this part, please stay masked. And is there anyone who would like to begin?
Okay. Hi, my name is Janice, and I'm a friend of Charlotte Lewis. I just want to mention one funny story. And when I would be at their home in the afternoon, they would always argue about how the shade should be when the sun would come down. And they would say, could you put it up? And then Charlotte would say, put it down. And this went on a few times until finally Lewis said, it's against the law. So that meant it was against the law not to do it the way Lewis wanted it. So that's a family joke that we have. Whenever somebody doesn't agree with us and we want our way, we just say the other way is against the law. Thank you.
One of my memories is that Janice brought Charlotte to my house we had a spring tea for perennial ladies, i.e. older folks. And Charlotte came, thanks to Janice, who gave her a ride. And she sat next to another woman about her age. And the two of them sat there drinking tea and snacks and rolling their eyes about these husbands of theirs, which I just was both full of love and rather endearing. The other thing I love about Lou and Charlotte is, speaking of his being hard of hearing, I knew he couldn't hear my sermons anymore, but he would still come. And he would dutifully make his way from the front where he sat to the back in order to tell me how much he liked the sermon, which I really didn't think he heard. And also there was some sleeping involved. But also often a political comment about something in the news, because he knew that we probably thought alike. And then he would have to be reminded he couldn't take the stairs and he had to walk back to the elevator. But he made that trip every time, which I took as a sign of mutual respect. Are there anyone else who would like to share a word?
So just a quick thing, at the end of her life, my grandma was quite a party animal. Whenever we had friends over, she very much wanted to be involved. I'd be like, are we being too loud? She goes, oh, no, please keep going. And she told me, I made it abundantly clear to me. At one point I was like, do you think you and Grampy would ever go to, I don't know, like a nursing home or somewhere with a bit more support? And she goes, absolutely not. She goes, only LOLs go there. I was like, what is an LOL? She's like, it's a little old lady and I refuse to become one. And yeah, that's my memory of Grammy.
I am Betsy Bergman. I was married to Charlotte's brother, Carl. We did a lot together. We lived in Sturbridge, brought up our children there, and during Christmas vacation, they were very busy at the shop, and on Christmas morning, people would still be coming, knocking on their door and asking to buy a Christmas tree or something like that, which bothered them because they couldn't do what they wanted with the family. So we took to having them come down to our house every Christmas morning, and they would spend the night, and we would do all the presents and have a really great time together that whole day. Charlotte and Lewis and I and Carl went to Nantucket with them on their yearly trips. That was always fun. No matter what, we would bike out to the nearest beach or our favorite beach, and there were many sand dunes. So Louis would get to the edge of a sand dune, and he'd scoop it out, make himself a seat. He would put a towel there, and he would sit down as though he was on a throne for the whole day. And when we first moved from New Jersey to Massachusetts, we lived in Wayland for 2 years on Happy Hollow Road. Anyhow, they came over often for dinner, and our kids had fun together. And Louis would always come late, and I would say to Charlotte, "Where is Louis?" And she would say, "He's shaving. He's shaving." And I thought the whole time that Louis had a really scratchy beard that he needed to get rid of before he came out for dinner. But actually, he was covering the plants. He was shading them. Took me a long time to catch on. And what great people. And what a happy time we always had together with them and all their children. And I'm having a delightful time meeting the grandchildren. So bless you all.
The Robinsons and the Russells had a long-time friendship. I'd even call it love. We did so many things together, starting when the kids were young, and our three and their three became friends. And my daughter Katie even said she was a Russell wannabe. She was very tired of all the boys in the neighborhood. And we had baseball fields and all. She felt left out and joined the horse group with Louisa and her sisters. We camped together at Pasico, and we really learned to be scouts, tenting and cooking marshmallows, singing by the fire. And those are wonderful memories for our children. They're all three here someplace, and I know they would agree with me that that's a high point of their young life. Even as children left, the parents stayed friends, and they were very helpful to me when my husband was sick. Shar and I did things with Campfire Girls. We did a lot of things together. And I just always think of ourselves as the Pelham Island duo. We both love that island, the river, the pond, and the fact that that wonderful environment gave a good time for our children.
Hi, my name is Louise Stein. I'm here with my father, Helmut Stein, and my sister, Ann Stein. Dorothy Stein can't be with us today in person, but she is certainly here in spirit. It's been a long time since I've seen the Russells. We first met the Russells up at Lake Pasico, which you've heard about, at the Irondequoit Club. We were coming in from upstate New York. It was a week-long holiday. My parents had decided would be fun for our little tribe of 4 people in our family. And we met the Russells and the Robinsons, and that was it. We were just then going twice a year for a week, twice a year for the downhill skiing and all the things that the kids would do together. And there was the kids' table where we all sat and ate, and there was the parents' table, and there was always lots of laughter and conversation and community coming from wherever there was more than one person. There was always love spilling out of the room, and I really I think that was so much the hallmark, too, of what Lou and Charlotte created. I loved going down to the camp area. We stayed up at the lodge, which was really terrific. Loved it. But the Russells were down there like camping right on the beach. It was like so cool. And just a flood of memories. Lots of beautiful feelings from my childhood in so many ways, and a big part of that has definitely been what we've had with the Russells, and then having worked at Russells too. I was one of those kids, so that went through that, and just have really cherished it all.
Oh, good. Nice height for the mic. I'm Kathy Grunewald. My husband and I have lived in Wayland almost half a century now, which is surprising to me, but I'm very grateful for it. We had a home in Wayland in another location, but when we decided to expand and seek some property that would please my husband, who was raised on a farm, and he wanted a place where he could have a garden, extensive plantings. We chose Pelham Island. And Pelham Island and the community there has been the heart of our lives for many, many decades now. And Charlotte and Lou were absolutely the king and queen of the Pelham Island group, as we called it, which unfortunately ends up with an acronym of PIG, but that's just an aside. The Pelham Island group over the years has been a closely knit, woven fabric of friendship. And our meeting place has traditionally been behind the Russell Ski and Homes, between the Garden Center and Pelham Island Road. Our annual cookouts, where Tim takes old pallets of wood and piles them to the sky. Oh, I'm not supposed to tell. Okay. We've had great little get-togethers, potlucks, at the Russell Ski and Homes, highlight of Pelham Island community living. We also are people who have had to endure occasional floods. And no conversation about the Pelham Island community would be complete about letting you know what a blast we have on our little island during those times. One of my abiding memories is a party we held at our house, and it was an island party, appropriately enough, because we are a veritable island. And it was Hawaiian themed. Luau, leis, grass skirts, and two men from the Russell Ski family in coconut bras. I have evidence. One of the best parties ever. Absolutely wonderful. I want to thank the Russell extended family for one of the most entertaining memorial services and kick-ass funereal occasions I have ever been to. If it weren't so logistically difficult, I'd say let's do it again sometime soon. It's so clear to me the love and the embracing that you all have for each other. I'm envious, I'm proud of you, and I'm so pleased that you've shared your stories. Lou and Charlotte embodied the best of the qualities that human beings can bring. I am proud to have been their friends and proud still to remain friends with your family. Long may the king and long may the queen live.
It seems like a lovely note to end that on, and I am certain there will be more sharing of stories over the reception, although I have to say I don't think that we have any single malt scotch, and I think the fresh juice is fresh, but anyway, that will have to come later at your own homes. As you hold in your heart and mind your own memories of Lou and Charlotte, please join me in a moment of silence to honor their lives. I will close the silence with a prayer. Spirit of life and love, we gather here today with hearts full of fondness and humor for Lou and Charlotte, as well as sorrow for their absences among us. As we celebrate their lives, may we remember the many gifts each shared with us. For Charlotte's compassionate care and teaching, for Lou's knowledge and determination and even stubbornness. We do not have all the words to convey the fullness of their lives or the impact they have had upon so many over their long lives. It is hard to say goodbye, to no longer have Lou or Charlotte around the garden center, the pews of First Parish, or amidst the gathering of family in Wayland or in Maine. As Charlotte and Lou pass beyond the horizon of what we know of life, may their memory and all that they gave to us help to remind us to work hard for people, places, and causes close to our heart, to love and cherish family and friends, and to vacation well. So may we cherish their memory, the gift of their lives, and the gifts of life and love that sustain us all. So may it be. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 205, if you want the hymnal, or the lyrics are in the order of service, Amazing Grace. Please rise in body or in spirit to sing together.
Thank you.
invited to reception in the courtyard between our two buildings. Go now in peace, seeking to live well and to love well, savoring the moments of joy, finding support in the times of struggle, and always holding fast to the connections that give our life meaning and purpose. Blessed be. Amen.